Casting fee, and the opinions expressed during the show are not necessarily those of the staff, management, or ownership of WGCH Radio.
Good morning, and welcome to Women's eNews Live. I'm your host, Dr. Lori Sokol. And if you're new to our show, here's a little background. Women's eNews Live is an extension of our website, Women's eNews, which covers issues affecting women and girls throughout the world. If you'd like to learn more about Women's eNews, you can log on to women'senews.org. And on our show today, our guest is Carole Wacey, who is the new CEO of the Women's City Club of New York. We are going, before we introduce Carole, I'd first like to speak about the upcoming march, the Women's March, which will be the second year in a row that this will be taking place, and Carole will be speaking more about how her organization, the Women's Cities Club of New York, will be getting involved. But just some background, first of all, as many of you know, last year more than 4 million people across the globe marched in protest on January 21st for the inaugural Women's March, which was held the day after Donald Trump's inauguration. Since then, there's been a women's strike, an onslaught of sexual harassment allegations against powerful men, and the rebirth of the Me Too movement. Unfortunately, however, there has been continual widespread discrimination against women and minorities since then as well. Now, the second annual Women's March weekend will take place on January 20th, where more than 200 Women's March events are planned around the world, and everywhere from as far away as New Zealand and Vancouver, Canada, as well as many marches in many metropolitan cities in the United States. An estimated 400,000 people participated last year in New York City, and now to discuss what is planned for this year on January 20th, please join me in welcoming Carole Wacey. Carole, welcome.
Dr. Sokol, thank you for having me on.
Well, it's our pleasure. And first, give us a little background about the Women's City Club of New York, if you will.
Absolutely. So I've been with the Women's City Club for just about 2 months now. And I'm really excited to be here. This organization has been around for 102 years. We're celebrating our 102nd anniversary this month. And it's a club that's been around since the early days, really working around I'm sad to say, a lot of the issues that we're still fighting today, fighting intolerance, fighting equal pay. Back then we were fighting for the right to vote. So this organization was really founded by some amazing women leaders who included people like Frances Perkins, our first cabinet secretary in the FDR administration. We had Eleanor Roosevelt, Helen Hayes, lots of amazing women leaders over the years. And today, if you were to take a look at our board, and I've said this before, any one of our members, you could have a book written about them. These are women who have had very interesting, thoughtful careers working on important issues from healthcare to education, social workers. We sort of have people from all walks of life.
It's interesting that, as you said, that some of the issues that were being fought for 102 years ago are still being fought for, and unfortunately, some of the issues that have already been won are now being turned back. I can only imagine what some of these women who had fought for many of women's rights would be saying now, that they are, in fact, being turned back. What issues in particular today is the Women's City Club of New York working towards?
Yeah, we work on an array of issues. We have 7 key areas that we work on across the policy spectrum. So that includes everything from healthcare to homelessness, income inequality, education, good government, environmental justice, criminal justice. So we work on a wide array of issues. We have a very active, engaged membership that really works to understand what are some of the important issues that are going on in our city, what do people really care about, where's there a need, and where can a place like the Women's City Club make a difference. So, for example, we've been involved in things like, we talk about salary equality. So back in 2017, the salary history ban was put into place. The City Council voted, led by Tish James, to prohibit employers from using salary history as a measure to determine salary offers. We know that those sort of historic issues adversely impact especially women and minorities. So, we'll get involved in an issue like that, attending hearings, speaking on them, submitting testimony, pulling together meetings, having conversations about that, and being part of, we don't do anything alone. There's a lot of great organizations in this city. We're yet another voice who makes sure that these important issues like salary history are really brought to the fore. And you see that even, I was watching the news this morning looking at sort of salary inequity issues, and you see it in a lot of the things that are getting attention are, of course, around Hollywood these days, not only Me Too, but when it comes to salary. I just saw the news this morning about the gap between what Michelle Williams was paid versus Mark Wahlberg. It's more power to him for arguing in favor of that, but the fact that Michelle Williams is making $1,000 when Mark Wahlberg is making $1.5 million for a similar amount of work speaks volumes to what still happens on a daily basis, in Hollywood and elsewhere. That's the one we hear about. We know there's a lot more that we don't hear about.
Of course, and that's the point. It's not only in Hollywood. It is elsewhere in just about every industry. In fact, as we know, those are the fields that are female-dominated, like nursing and teaching and childcare. Women are the lowest paid fields than those that, as opposed to those that are male-dominated for women doing the same job, and sometimes even better. So, but I want to first talk about the Women's March on the 20th of January, because it is something that last year it made a huge impact in some ways, but in other ways it didn't make much of an impact, unfortunately. So as I had said previously, 4 million people across the globe marched January 21st of last year. I was one of them, actually. I was in Washington, D.C. Last year at this time, on that date. And so this year, on the 20th, it is happening again from countries like New Zealand and Canada to many major cities throughout this country. What is the organization's hope will come from marching again this year?
Yeah, I think if we look sort of at the history of marches, one of the great values in having a march is really just that sort of natural opportunity for people to come together around issues that they care about. So often today we're very isolated because of technology. We're busy. Everyone's busy with work. Very often people are working multiple jobs, and people have families and other commitments in their life. To have the opportunity, and I give credit to the organizations that are really putting a lot of effort behind the march, to find, sort of take a break, everyone come together around things that are really important to them. We hear around the water coolers, on email, certainly on social media, people complaining about a lot of things that are happening. So what January 20th really presents is an opportunity for everyone to set aside the rest of their life where they can. We know not everyone can do this, but where you can, come out, join your fellow citizens, and stand up for these very important issues. These are not minor things that are happening in our country, in our cities, in our communities right now. There are major things happening every day, and we know there's a lot of frustration around what's happening. We know a lot of people feel that they can't make a difference. But to come out together, to join literally arm in arm, hand in hand, step by step with our fellow citizens to say, this is not okay. I want to learn from my neighbor. I want to talk to my neighbor. I want to share with my neighbor. And I want to, most importantly, to your point, we got to figure out, if we don't like what's happening, what do we want to see happen, and how are we going to make that happen? And that's what I'm hoping, as the new leader here at the Women's City Club, I can help to, in partnership, again, none of us can do this alone, with our city leaders, our state leaders, our national leaders, our local average citizens, my neighbors, to really figure out what should we be doing and how can we envision what we want for our country and then really develop a plan for making that happen. And these are not easy questions to answer, but I think the march is literally and figuratively the first step toward doing those things.
Yes, but it's not the first step, is it? It's actually many steps have been taken, particularly over the past year, perhaps in reaction to having a president who has, I'm not sure what even to use the word, has really turned back human rights and women's rights in particular. I'm actually looking at now an article, The 100 Ways Trump's Policy Harms Progress for Women and Families. And here's just a few things. Eroding family economic security. His administration slashed support for military caregivers, blocked pay transparency protections, eliminated child care for military families. I think it was just yesterday, the day before, that he was talking about how proud he is of those who serve in our military, yet at the same time has cut child care for military families. Of course, also failed to advance equal pay for women, which is something we just spoke about. Has stalled paid family and medical leave, which not only hurts families, but also the opportunity for men as well as women to take paid family and medical leave. Cut training for nurses, dropped LGBTQ seniors and people with disabilities from data collection, has made student debt harder to pay off, slash nutrition for children's school lunches, cuts after-school programs. I'm only at number 18, and of course there are 100 acts that have been put forth to remove rights for women and families. Of course, a number of Planned Parenthood attacks have been made, and a number of Planned Parenthood locations have been shut down. And, of course, the global gag rule, which prevents U.S. foreign aid from offering any information, referral services, or advocacy regarding abortion care, cuts funding for teen pregnancy prevention. Health and Human Services has been slashed. Again, I'm not even at half the number of attacks that the administration has made in just over, well, he only took office, right, a year ago, under a year. The attacks to human rights, particularly women's rights and families across this country. So you indicated what your hope is and the importance of people coming together for one cause. But can you be any more specific as to what your hope is to from this march, and what can be done over the next year to prevent more women's rights and human rights and family supports for families to be removed and taken away even further?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that need to happen. I do think even conversations like the ones that you put forward are incredibly important. that we're having these kind of conversations, I think, is really important. I think trying to get these conversations turned into action in our legislatures becomes really important, and we see really nice glimmers of that in recent elections and things that are happening across the country. We all are talking about all the changes happening in Virginia, and now I just heard about a women-based cabinet in Virginia, which I think is really exciting. Seeing some changes like that, for those of us who have been in politics, it's, you see the pendulum swinging, going back and forth, and the challenge is, as you were going through that list, it seemed so unmanageable. I think even for those of us who, I think many people were nervous about a Trump presidency, but I don't think many people even envisioned the great volume and the speed with which these changes would be made. I think there's a lot of surprise in that. And I've worked for a previous presidential administration, and it's hard to move fast. And I'm amazed.
Which one was that? Which one did you work on?
I was in the Clinton administration. So I worked for Secretary Riley and Madeleine Kunin at the U.S. Department of Education, and I did spend a year at the White House during my tenure there. And even when it changes, it can be challenged. The speed at which these issues have been put forward is actually quite remarkable, is what I'd say. And it's also, I'm sure, very intentional in many ways because it's hard to fight so many areas all at once. So people are scrambling and reacting versus having the time and thought to be proactive. And we just don't have the luxury of time because, as you say, as you talk about each one of these issues, these are really significant issues to our citizens. So I think part of it is really figuring out how to be very strategic about dealing with each of these issues, which means, I keep talking about no one can do it alone, really forming coalitions to be able to address these issues in a comprehensive way with a lot of partners, with a lot of data, really finding the ways to sort of come back to those. There have been a lot of meetings. I participated in some of them here in New York around getting new leadership into elected office and attracting new people to that, and diverse people. And when we talk about diversity, we talk about in every way, age and gender and backgrounds. And we've seen a lot of that, and really taking action. One of the things, and one of my real challenges in coming to a 102-year-old organization like the Women's City Club of New York is really thinking about, there have been a lot of areas where we've had impact, and there have been a lot of areas where we have been participating. And I mentioned those 7 broad policy areas. We're a small organization, so for us, what I'm really tasked with is, and I think for all of us, is where can we have the most impact? So finding those areas of opportunity where we can have impact. And one of the areas, even for the Women's City Club, that we're looking at is this whole notion of civic engagement. How do we really show people how to get involved? I think too often we have a lot of really smart, thoughtful people, even, just here in New York City. And I would say probably even a lot of my friends who are very engaged, thoughtful people with some time, they don't know how to do things and how to get involved, how to take a step. So I think for organizations like ours, it's really finding ways to help, our fellow citizens know where they can turn and where they can make a difference.
That's excellent. And the if you can tell listeners your website so that they can go onto your website as well and see how they can get involved.
No, that's great. So we're the Women's City Club of New York. It's www.wccny.org, and there's all kinds of information on our website about how to get involved in our public programs that we do, our task forces. We have an email alert. There's networking opportunities. We do tours around the city, and we have policy forums. So there's certainly a lot of ways to get involved. And our phone number, if you want to reach us that way. So not everyone says everyone has technology, but not always the case. and some people still prefer the personal touch. So our phone number is 212-353-8070.
I'd like to now ask you, so we're talking about how women can make a difference and an impact on increasing our rights toward equality in this country and around the world. But not all women want that, right? And that was demonstrated in not only the presidential election of last year, where 52% of white women voted for Donald Trump, even though it was clear through audio tape and video that he's a sexual predator. They voted for him anyway. And so we can also look at, after all the women's rights that have been turned back in this last year when Roy Moore was running for candidacy, a majority of white women also voted for him, even though he was accused by girls of also as a sexual predator and a sexual abuser, rather doing that than to vote for Democrats, which seems, the choice was, I remember seeing a cartoon, one button, sexual predator versus Democrat. And what I know it. That's why I remember it, because it seemed so outrageous at the time. Yet still, a majority of white women voted for Moore, even though his history was put forth. Making sense of that has been very difficult for a lot of people, and certainly wanting to, for those who are now running, women who are now running and are looking in future. They have their campaigns. They've already begun and running for office in future elections. Trying to figure out, how do we get women who voted against their own equal rights to switch, to understand, to open themselves up to the idea that they are voting against their best interests, that of if they have daughters, their sisters, their mothers, their aunts, their nieces, and even it negatively affects boys and men as well. How do I get them to understand that it's not helpful to vote against their own best interests? What is your opinion on that?
You're raising a really core issue that we really need to debate as a country. This is politics over principles, and it's not okay. I think unfortunately what it comes down to, leading up to the Roy Moore election, it was, our president was saying things, and our leadership in Washington on the right was saying, we need to keep this Senate seat, and that was put above everything else. And when you look at the people who voted for Roy Moore and the people who voted for President Trump, even in light of the data that was before them, they're sort of saying, all those other issues in having this conservative leader is much more important than what the facts are telling us about their morals. And again, let's keep in mind, the Republicans always claim that they own the morals of this country. But then on the other hand, they're saying, put that aside because we want the vote in Washington. And that just doesn't reconcile.
It's not just morals. They felt that they put aside the candidates' crimes, right? Not just morals.
Yeah, you're right. No, that's right. These are criminal acts.
Criminal acts. They're willing to overlook that person's criminal acts to put him to get the vote in Senate, and that is really dangerous. It's extremely dangerous because imagine the repercussions if that were to continue in other elections, right? Fortunately, he lost because African Americans, particularly African American women, came out and voted over 90% for Democrat, and he won. But yeah, it's very important, and whoever thought we'd have a discussion about why people shouldn't put a criminal in office.
It's ridiculous that this is the conversation we're having. And
yes.
What I hope through things like Me Too is that
yes.
people who are conducting criminal acts will be held accountable for them, and that the conversation will be very different because we can't have criminals in office. But the reality is these people who have been accused of criminal acts, they haven't been held accountable for them yet. That one day soon, some of these people who have been accused will be held accountable, and then it won't be an issue for them, but the conversation will hopefully shift because, to your point, it's not okay. We shouldn't be able to put these things aside and have the conversation. I mean, it's ridiculous. The sexual predator versus the Democrat button is exactly what's happening. And the fact that that's even a decision to make, that speaks volumes about what's happening in this country. The conversation needs to shift.
The majority of a certain group, white women, actually, I don't want to say push the button because there's a lot of talk about pushing buttons these days, but actually, voted for the sexual predator. At this point, I'd like to, again, as we're coming to a close, provide information, again, on January 20th. I believe the march is from, is it 1 to 3 o'clock? There's also a march in Hartford, Connecticut, from 1 to 3 o'clock, and in New York City and other major cities throughout the country. Where is it in New York specifically?
It's happening again at Columbus Circle, so people will be gathering all around that area, and we hope to have a huge turnout this year. You can register and join the Women's City Club if you come onto our site. We have a place where you can RSVP and join us, and in any case, come out. It's very easy to do, and we're looking at what will be above freezing temperatures on that Saturday are projected right now, which is great news.
So attendees can either bring their pussy hats or they can keep it at home. It's up to them. Well, thank you for joining us this morning, Carole Wacey, head of the Women's City Club.
Thank you, Dr. Sokol.
I'm Dr. Lori Sokol for Women's eNews Live on 1490 AM WGCH.
When are kids too young to understand the difference between art and filth, beauty and pornography? One place you probably shouldn't test those boundaries is Utah, but this teacher found out the hard way. I say it's overkill. Next on Dan's Life.
For many businesses, hiring is tough. You want access to highly qualified